Sit at my grave. Chapter 10. Sun rays shined through the windows, lighting up the room. The birds' songs filled the silence. Ardyn moved around a bit. He yawned and stretched as he got up. He looked around the room in a daze, wiping the sleep from his eyes before getting out of bed. The first thing Ardyn noticed was his phone lighting up with notifications. He frowned in confusion, knowing most of the time he ever got calls and texts was from Galen, although he opted for getting his day started before checking his phone. The house was quiet. The sky had nice blue outside. It was such a calm and tranquil morning, especially compared to how loud the storm was last night. Ardyn took his time getting a bowl of cereal before going to shower and get dressed. Being alone like that brought up his thoughts to what happened the other night. Besides his blowout with Reed, he couldn't help his mind drifting to the weird dream he had. Ardyn studied those types of things, so he was more inclined to believe even if it was a dream, it could have meant something. In his mind, he always figured his perception and general intelligence was above most people. He didn't shrug off or take those types of things lightly like others did, although it was hard to remember everything that happened as clearly right now. It was hazy, but he still felt something was off. Ardyn walked back into his room grabbing his phone, still loosely drying his face from washing. He sat on his bed scrolling through it. He figured he'd try to see if he could invite Galen over for a reading session. Maybe I have something for interpreting dreams around here, Ardyn thought. Missed calls and texts from Renly that morning and Amory last night flooded his phone. Ardyn frowned immediately. His mother was one to worry sometimes, so he could understand why she was texting and calling a lot when he didn't answer. But Amory texting him was very odd. They knew each other, of course, but they were never close or talked much. Ardyn stood up and called his mom. While he waited for her to pick up, he felt a pit in his stomach. It was a strange chill of nervousness that went through him, which he didn't normally experience. Something felt off. "Ardyn," Renly's voice answered with an unsettling tone. "I saw your number like 15 times, Ardyn started to joke lightly, but Renly interrupted him. "Are you okay?" she asked. He could tell she wasn't joking. She sounded so worried and shaken up. "I'm fine. What's going on?" Ardyn asked, frowning. He walked around the house a bit, stopping to lean against the wall while he concentrated on his mother's voice. Although she worried a lot, Renly never tried to stress anyone else out as far as Ardyn knew. She would often hide things if it eased the burdens of others. Ardyn heard Renly take a deep breath, trying to calm herself down before she spoke again. "You need to get to the hospital," Renly instructed. Her tone shifted, sounding more serious. Those were some of the last words ringing in Ardyn's ears before he went outside. He was almost on autopilot as he called and asked Galen for a ride. And Galen, like always, was there to help him, without many questions asked. The ride there was a bit of a blur to Ardyn. He was thinking so many things at once, but he couldn't process it all right then. It was like his brain was waiting on some information before he combed through everything. Ardyn heard Galen ask if he was okay a few times on the trip, but he couldn't answer him. He himself wasn't even sure what he was feeling yet. Galen eventually stopped asking, but he did put one hand on Ardyn's shoulder in a show of silent support. Eventually, Ardyn and Galen made it to the hospital. Ardyn followed the instructions Renly gave him and weaved his way through the place to the waiting room. Families sitting around talking and crying to one another made the uncomfortable situation even more unsettling. Nurses going around working and moving things, harsh beeps and buzzes of machines working. It was all too much at once. "Mom," Ardyn said as he entered, his eyes focusing on the familiar figure. She was sat there leaned over one of the plastic chairs, face down in her open palms. Ardyn couldn't tell if she was crying or trying to comfort herself. Ardyn wasn't sure what to do. He hadn't ever seen his mom so upset before. He never really had to comfort anyone at all for that matter. He was out of his element and a bit frozen to the spot. Galen's hand found its way back to Ardyn's shoulder. He walked towards Renly, gently guiding Ardyn over with him. In the back of his head, Ardyn debated on leaving. It was Galen who really made him stay. At the moment, he didn't really know if he should be grateful for having him there or wish he hadn't came along. Ardyn didn't consider himself a cold person, but he hated having to be there for the dramatics. He wanted to know what was going on first and foremost. The burden in Ardyn's head relaxed a bit, seeing Renly didn't look physically hurt. "Mrs. Adler?" Galen said gently as he sat beside her. He pressed his comforting hand on her back, his eyebrows knit together in concern. "What's going on? Can I do anything to help?" Galen asked her. All he got in response was Renly gasping harshly, trying to contain herself. She had been sobbing to herself before they came in and was desperately trying to pull it all together to talk. Ardyn stood with his arms folded, staring down at Renly. He didn't speak, but he did wish he would hurry up and see what was going on. The anticipation was only going to make things worse. Ardyn would prefer hearing it without the extra fluff. He thought of himself to be good at problem solving, but not in emotions because of all the unnecessary drama. Take your time. Would you like some water? It'll help you calm down a little, Gallon suggested. Renly shook her head for no as she wiped her eyes, blinking rapidly, trying to keep her tears in. What happened? You don't look hurt. Why are we in the hospital? Ardyn finally blurted out, the uncertainty and anxious air getting to him. Gallon shot him a look, but otherwise focused on rubbing Renly's back, waiting on a response from her. Ardyn, baby, Renly said weakly. She got up to her feet, grabbing Ardyn's face in both of her hands, cupping his cheeks. Ardyn was about to harshly ask for answers, but the intense look in Renly's eyes as she locked her gaze into his shut him up. It's your brother,